as promised, we're going out to Ontario now, where I think they can talk Blue Jays 365. Barry Davis joins us from the Out of the Park podcast. Everybody knows him from Blue Jays coverage on Sportsnet. How you doing, Barry?
I'm good. I'm just trying to arrange my camera here. This is all new technology for me. I don't have quite the nice studio that you have, but hey, it's not too bad.
You know what? It's all about the guy behind the mic, and we know that you're a stud in that realm. And it looks fine, by the way, and it sounds great. And
good. I'm trying to get that guitar in the shot there.
I know.
There you go.
We'll have to get around to the music talk, too, because I know you host a music podcast on that, too. But listen, I got to ask you about the news that came out Friday in the Globe and Mail about the plan to tear down Rogers Centre. So it would seem some of your greatest broadcasting highlights have been there, Barry. What did you think when you heard that news?
That it's not news. That this is stuff that's been talked about for an awfully long time right now. If they were saying that they are going to tear the Rogers Centre down this year during the offseason and then build a new stadium while the Blue Jays were playing elsewhere, then that would be big breaking news. But quite honestly, this is something that's been in the works for an awfully long time. And as you go on to read the story, you realize that this is not happening this offseason. This is happening 4, 5, 6 years down the line. So it's something that I think is much needed. The Rogers Centre served a wonderful purpose, and for many years it was a fantastic stadium, but it is very antiquated, and it needs a refresher, and there's only so much you can do. So it's time to build a new one. What I'm not so sure about is building a new stadium on the same site that the Rogers Centre is on now. I think it's time to move it out into one of the more rural areas outside of the city. We've got great transit now. We've got a lot of land. I'd love to see an area where fans can do some tailgating and hang out and actually, enjoy a full day instead of just going there for the ball game and going home.
See, now I'm one of those fans that's very romantic with the idea of Rogers Centre. I know it's congested down there, but I love the Blue Jays store and all the shops in the. I stayed in the hotel many nights. I go in there to play with the Rough Riders, and the Rough Riders have won 2 Grey Cups there. But you get it, right? That's what the fans see. A guy like you that goes there to work every day probably sees a few things that the fans don't. Like when you say,
well, the interesting thing is,
yeah.
I mean, from a working standpoint, it was one of the best stadiums I had a chance to work in. Fenway is a major dump, as much as people love it, but to work, these places are complete dumps. So I am totally fine with Rogers Centre when it came to a working environment, but I don't work down there anymore. So now I'm thinking from a fan standpoint, and I want to see real grass in the ballpark. I don't want to see the dimensions just being completely symmetrical. I want to see something a little bit different. I'd love to see a little bit more of a Camden Yards style ballpark. However, you do need a retractable roof. I'm not necessarily saying for the cold weather that we would get in April or September. I'm saying because of the amount of rain. So it doesn't have to be a full enclosure like the Rogers Centre, but I'd like to see something a little more, I was going to say retro, but I don't think we can call that retro anymore. I think now Rogers Centre would be considered retro.
Absolutely. The phase or the fad is to go to smaller, more intimate parks instead of the gigantic, what you're talking about. And by the way, Barry, every time we talk about certain topics, the Blue Jays being one, the comments just light up. John in Winnipeg says, the Buffalo Blue Jays again? What's the scoop? He wants to know that, so hang on. Jeff, the Stampeders fan, says the Sky Dome is so iconic, still the best engineered retractable roof. Wouldn't the Jays not want to stay downtown? Let's start there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think they would prefer to stay downtown because you do have a fantastic transit system and it does feed right through the downtown area. If you're driving to the ballpark, it's not a lot of fun out that way. I was fortunate enough when I worked down there that I would be there, quite a few hours before the game, and I would be leaving, when most of the crowd was gone. Having said that, if you do need to drive down as a fan, it wasn't great. And we do have a lot of land, maybe a 20-minute drive from downtown Toronto where they could potentially put it. But I totally see the argument of wanting to have it downtown. And I've never lived in the downtown area. I've always lived north of the city. So for me, maybe I'm just being a little biased. As far as what the Rogers Centre actually provided and the technology they had, in 1989, it was state-of-the-art stuff. And for many years, visiting players would come and they'd marvel at watching the roof open and close. Now, the the roof opening and closing is not so much a fun thing. It takes a lot longer. It's very noisy. It gets stuck a lot. And it's not something that's just an easy fix anymore. When you go to one of the newer ballparks that have a retractable roof, that thing opens and closes in 10, 15 minutes tops. Whereas the Rogers Center, you get looking at a good 30, 45 minutes. And if it should start to rain in the middle of a game and they start to close it, the place is going to get pretty wet before they have a chance to get it fully closed. And they don't have the type of drainage that you would in an outdoor ballpark. So there are some things that, have passed way past their prime.
Hey, Barry, I'm hoping you'll stay with us into another segment. We still got time here, but I'm loving this, as are our viewers. If I can just chime in here, the Stamps fan, Jeff, says, Fenway is no dump. I suppose you'd say the same about McMahon. Meanwhile, Dallas Federchuk, friend of ours, scout for the Wheat Kings, he says, do not speak ill of the iconic Fenway Park, Mr. Davis. Hang on. I've been there. It's disgusting. Like walking under the stands, health code violations, water dripping down on you. It's gross. So I don't know what you think about Fenway, but I've seen it. But do you want to defend yourself?
From a fan standpoint,
yeah.
to sit in the stands, and I've sat in every possible seat in there because I would always go to the ballpark early and have a chance to sit around. During the postseason, when I'd cover the Red Sox playing other teams, they would put a number of us media out in right field around Pesky's Pole. So there are some wonderful things about that stadium. But getting from the press box to the clubhouse is no easy task. There's no separate elevator. You're going down with the fans. You're walking through the corridor. The entrances to both the Red Sox and Blue Jays clubhouses are right in the middle of where the concession stands are. So when I say it's a dump, I mean that. There's also the walk that you have to take from the Blue Jays clubhouse onto the field, where you walk on this little rubbery floor, and it is an accident waiting to happen. There are rats all over the place. It's disgusting. The visiting clubhouse is about the size of the average bedroom, and you have to stick 25 players in there. So I don't want to offend anyone when I say dump, because yes, to sit and watch it, and it is an iconic stadium, and it is, really beautiful to see on TV. But let me clarify that when I say dump, when I'm making my opinions on stadiums, I'm totally talking about from a working environment. The press box has got to be one of the worst I've ever seen in pro baseball. If you are one of the lucky ones to sit in the front row of the press box, you're fine. But if you are sitting on second, third, or fourth row, what you're seeing are window frames. And a lot of times I would watch a game from the press box before I'd actually move to the point where I was watching from the camera bay. But when I'd be watching from the press box, the pitcher's head would be cut off quite often because you would see the frame of the window that would cut off the head. So, and there were a lot of blind spots as well. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Wrigley Field, the same. Well, a beautiful ballpark. First place I ever watched a baseball game. A lot of great memories. But then when I covered the World Series there, and I realized this place is terrible. Even the men's bathrooms in the concession areas, okay? They have these big, long troughs, not urinals. So you got 15, 20 guys all lined up in this one trough, taking a leak at the same time. So, yeah, dump.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I don't know why people were triggered, but yeah, these are tourist destinations you want to go once in a lifetime. But for the people that have to go there every single day, the players and the staff, yeah, it's horrible. And why wouldn't you want to be in a brand new Taj Mahal facility if you can? Barry, can you stick for another segment? Do you mind?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing better to do.
Barry Davis with us, and we're going to talk some on-field stuff, baseball, and whatever else comes up. With maybe we'll get into viewer takeover early. We'll be right back. You're watching the RP Show on Game Plus, TV Network, Facebook Live, and listen live for Suds Full Service Car Wash at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.